Time's short. This is a story, not a poem. I've read it here before. That's okay. This is a story about France. In another life that runs underneath this one, me and a group of friends prepared for our school disco with a spiraling litre bottle of lemonade that we emptied out onto the concrete in front of us. We refilled it with a mix of every top shelf spirit from our parents' cabinet. And then, sitting in the only spot in the local park that wasn't exposed to the cameras and the prying eyes, we tried to drink it, until each of us threw up, watching each other, the thin, acrid vomit stinking of petrol on the ground. See, I mention this because this is where my story starts. As I stood, my palm pressed against the tree, wiping acid spittle from my mouth, I realised that this would be the start of a journey. Up, down, sideways, clubs, parties, gigs, under bridges. Mine has been an eventful, if not an uncommon journey, like so many others, bored with the straight and narrow of consciousness, bored with a world set up like a line of dominoes, bored with the grey stillness of streets that had once become lava and castles underneath my childhood feet. I'd started to chase dragons. I'm 36 years old now. They warned me it would happen. I didn't believe them. But the planets moved around me and gravity didn't pause for 1 second. I'm rambling again. Let's get to the story, to France. Skip ahead 10 years, sunny day, the end of a long week, and I call up Jay. You see, a few years back, my friend Jay, I call him a friend, more of a dealer, he'd been raided at dawn by no less than 6 armoured police and spent several years in a maximum security prison in High Wycombe. Jay knew that you couldn't bring much into prison with you. They've got pretty smart to that these days. But he was a smart man in some ways and knew that certain texts, especially holy texts, were permitted by the prison authorities. As such, Jay had soaked his King James Bible in enough liquid LSD to dose the whole of Glastonbury for the foreseeable future. And as the humdrum prison routine became too much for him to bear, he began to nibble his way through, starting with Genesis in the beginning, all the way through the divine word, the boring bits, the numbers, Corinthians, Leviticus, tattoo your skin, all the way into the good parts of the New Testament, when suddenly in a mental breakdown, he threw first himself and then his cellmate into a hard cell wall. His was the voice I first heard say the word France. I called him up, and he was listening for me. Shrooms, LSD, got amnesia since a hyper indica, uppers, downers, murders, failure, mushrooms, France. France? I said. The word had come out of nowhere, and I wondered if I'd really heard it. Yes, mate, he replied sternly. France, new stuff, one of those research things. It makes you feel like you're in France. There was a pause, and I coughed. France? I repeated. It makes you feel, said Jay, like you're in France. You know, France. Eiffel Tower. Je joue au football at the weekend. Royale with cheese. France. France, I repeated. Tell you what, came the voice over the phone. Don't expect to move much of it. I'll throw you in a bag for free. And so it goes. I found myself alone in my room 3 hours later with a bag of innocent white powder on which was written in crude marker pen, France. You see, Jay was wrong. France worked, and not just for me, but for others too. It set the London sky on fire. Let's be dead clear. You took this stuff intranasally, rectally, orally, anally, whichever way took your fancy. I said anally twice there, which is an interesting Freudian slip. But let's be dead clear. You took this stuff and you felt a sensation. A sensation you could only describe as inexplicably French. It was a serene, a warm sensation, a hot bath for the soul. When you closed your eyes and laid back, you could hear the melodic arpeggios of a jazz piano, and your nose would fill with the smell of baking bread, of red wine, of a Marseille street in the evening light, the soft light of candles, of chandeliers, the gentle buzz of passing people whose conversations had more import than any you had previously heard. No anxiety, no fear, no bad trips. You were in France. Except it wasn't really France. It was the France you find in films, a mythical place, half real and half dream. Woody Allen found it in Midnight in Paris, the Roaring Twenties, Hemingway, and The Movable Feast. The place that tourists all around the world go seeking and never quite find. It was a memory of a place you've never been to, like when an unprompted smell grabs you off your ankles and scrambles you into a moment you thought you'd long forgotten. Things become normal quickly, and soon you'd arrive at parties to see a group of people smoking, ironic berets paunched jauntily on their heads, bags full of garlic, baguettes. It's not like these little accoutrements added much to the French experience, but people embraced them, and soon the baffled police were following trails of breadcrumbs to find rooms full of hardy junkies humming along to Edith Piaf. I've never had a worse come down. Brutal, short and punishing, a great invisible hand pushing you from the balcony of the well-welcoming perfect place that you'd be taken to the dirty, carpeted floor of a London you had ate to forget. All addicts are addicts. France was no exception. And I'd hear people talk about how they were going to save up, buy a one-way ticket to Bordeaux. I never heard anyone actually go. Misery followed France like a shadow. The Germans call it Sehnsucht, and me, I call it escapism. And that's what it tasted like when people sobered up to find themselves in a country that started to feel to me like a scratch record, repeating itself ad nauseum for months, years, decades, the needle skipping, and no one there to change the track. Sometimes, when I lie in bed at night, my body coated in sweat, my heart still keeping the rhythm of the piano, my mind twitching, I swear I can smell the smell of baking bread and a place I've never been. France. Thank you.